Okay.
Are we good? Madam Clerk, are we in compliance with open meetings law?
Yes, we are.
Because of the fact that we do have this new element of virtual, we're going to do a roll call. So, Mr. Betcher. Here. Mr. Duffy.
Here.
Mr. Morgan.
Here.
Ms. Taylor. Ms. Taylor is not present. Moving on to the meeting agenda. Has everyone looked at the agenda? Chance to look at the agenda? It's already been posted, so moving on to public comments. Public comments is an opportunity for anybody who's not on the agenda to address the committee. You have 3 minutes. That goes for all in virtual as well. So is there anybody present at this meeting who wishes to address the committee at this time? Is everybody unmuted?
Yep.
Okay. Moving on to minutes from the previous meeting. Has everyone had a chance to see the minutes from the last meeting?
Yes.
Motion, Chair would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented. I have a Mr. Duff, motion from Mr. Duffy.
I'll second.
A second from Mr. Betcher. In discussion, is there any comment on that motion? Hearing none, calling for a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
Any abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to number 6 on the agenda, Sawyer County Agricultural Fair Association report. Anybody here from the fair? Floor is yours, sir.
All right, so we are, and currently, I've met with Sawyer County Health Officer and explained our plan that we have in place to safely have our county fair. With what we have in place currently, she has said that we could keep moving forward. I have another meeting with her this week to discuss a little more in detail for what more of our plans and everything going forward to social distance and still safely have our fair. So with any luck in her guidance, we'll still be able to push forward and have that.
So when is the drop dead date for the final decision on having the fair or not?
July 15th.
Right.
That's our next board meeting, July 15th.
But it's your understanding that you're okay with proceeding with the fair?
Yes.
And you've been in contact with Ms. Lyons?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Mr. Hoff.
Could you describe some of the things that you've talked about with Julia? And I think the last time you met was prior to the announcement of the concert that you're planning.
Yep. No, I did tell her about that.
Okay.
It wasn't announced publicly, but it was discussed. Some of the things we were doing, like the concert, we're actually moving it, instead of having our bands inside the beer tent like normal, we're moving it out to a different tent so that we're able to spread it out further. Our buildings, we're set it up so we have a certain flow through the buildings. You can only come in one entry, only exit one spot. To be able to social distance with our livestock auction, we're looking at moving that to the outdoor horse arena, so everybody gets spread out there. Same thing with flow in those buildings is only one direction. There won't be any, if we end up doing the carnival, there won't be any bounce houses. The carnival, we have a plan with them too, that they will rides will have to be wiped down. Our grandstand events will, we haven't 100% decided if we're going to close off so the bleachers can't be used or make it so that people have to social distance. So I think closing off those bleachers would be an easier thing to do. But Julia and I are going to discuss that more for options of.
One thing I would ask is full board meets on the 16th, so you guys are meeting the day before.
What's that?
The full board meets on Thursday the 16th. So-
Wednesday the 15th.
Our
Oh, your board.
Our board. And so if there's any decisions that you're comfortable sharing, I would probably come to that meeting on Thursday.
Okay.
Have a representative be present. It's at 6:30 in the large courtroom.
Okay.
Anything else on this matter?
Rick, can you state your name for those that are not
This is Rick Christian, the Sawyer County Fair President.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Christian? Hearing none, thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Moving on to UW Extension Department report.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, so you have in your packet, I believe, the PowerPoint. I know Carol's going to try and pull it up for those who are online. So I can take you through it. It shouldn't take more than 45 minutes or so. Maybe 10.
You have to the 4 to the 5 of those 45 minutes.
You gonna set it? Go. All right, so I thought it would be hopefully okay to do a little bit of an overview of Extension in Area 2 in particular, especially for those people who are new for the Extension Committee. So I will try and get through this pretty quickly, but so just an overview that Extension's purpose, and I'm going to kind of click through mine so you can maybe see where I'm going if that helps you. So Extension's purpose is to teach, learn, lead, and serve, connecting people with the University of Wisconsin. So I guess just keep in mind that we're really thinking about education, programming, and prevention when we talk about the programming that we're doing with Extension. And again, just connecting people to the university and to the resources that are there. That's our mission really, the Wisconsin idea is to partner with every single county and extend those resources from the university out into every county and every the 3 tribal nations. So there's this collaboration and this partnership that goes with us and you to just try and connect the educators that are here in each one of the counties to the specialists and again to the resources that are there in Madison and really kind of statewide. So there's the statewide network that you are connected to through us is kind of the best way to explain what Extension is. I always think of it as an extension cord coming from Madison, just plugging into the different resources and specialists that we have there. So what I wanted to do too is, well, I should say my job, the Area Extension Director, is really providing that administrative oversight, in particular for Barron, Burnett, Rusk, Sawyer, and Washburn counties. And so my office is in Spooner, but I get out to the different extension offices throughout my area, usually about once a week or so, and more often if I'm needed. So an overview of Extension's work, 4-H comes through Extension. So if you don't have Extension in your county, which I know some counties are thinking about that right now, but if you don't have Extension, you don't have 4-H in your counties. You also don't have FoodWise, which is, I'll talk about it a little bit later too. Just a resource that all of the funding, the national funding, comes through Extension. And so that's why you get it when you get Extension. So 4-H, FoodWise, and Master Gardeners in particular are kind of those 3 big program areas that people usually hear about, and just a nice reminder that that's through Extension. This next org chart is a little crazy to understand, but all the green are just the areas that we work in, but the purple side is what I'm going to focus on a little bit more. And that's just an overview for you, the different institutes. So the Agriculture Institute, there's agriculture and natural resources on one side, and then kind of everything else. So the youth development, health and well-being, all that other stuff is organized with 2 associate deans. So the Ag Institute is where Kevin is found, but behind Kevin are all these other people who are there to support him, and the people that you're tapping into kind of through Kevin, again, that extending to them. So Heidi's the Institute Director, and then there are those other 5 are kind of program managers. So Master Gardeners comes through there, and through livestock and crops and soils and horticulture. Those are the program managers that are there. And then of course your own educator, Kevin, is the person that you tap into to get to the rest of the resources. So in particular, Kevin has an emphasis in crops and soil and a little bit of horticulture, and his office is in Spooner. And so, you know, you get about 1/3 of his position. It's shared between Sawyer, Burnett, and Washburn counties. Next is the Community Development Institute. And again, those are kind of the institute director as well as the program managers that are listed there and what they do. And then ARIGA is your particular educator that's in Sawyer County that connects to the Community Development Institute. She, in particular, does organizational leadership development. That's kind of her gig, if you will. What her specialty is, what her program area is the organizational leadership. And you can see there are other things that community development people do throughout the state. They might do food systems or local government or community economic development, but in particular, ARIGA does organizational leadership development. And a lot of that work is with LCO and Amber out there. The next institute is Health and Wellbeing Institute. And again, those are the people that are kind of behind. They're not all in Madison. They're kind of spread throughout the state, but those resources that are there. And then you may remember Kim, Lisa, who used to report to this committee before she left, would have fallen under this institute as well. So Kim and Bridget in particular are for Sawyer County. And again, FoodWise is mostly they go to schools and senior centers and WIC and food shelves and really particularly emphasize good, healthy nutrition with a population of people who are usually, they have to be a specific age and a specific income eligible in order for those services to happen. But Sawyer County in particular has about 95,000, I think, $92,000 that are run through FoodWise in order to get that to Sawyer County and the services and education that's available to you that you don't pay for, that comes through FoodWise. Next is Human Development and Relationships Institute. For those of you who remember, I used to be a family living educator here in Sawyer County, and this would have been the institute that I would have reported to. You no longer have an educator when you did some budget cuts. This no longer is an institute that Sawyer County has, but we do have a couple other educators in Area 2 that can do some programming, especially now through virtual programming. We're finding that like Missy and Danette may be doing some Raising the Thinking Child and some other co-parenting programs that as long as you have internet, you can connect to them, and those services could be provided for Sawyer County as well. Next is Natural Resources Institute. It's again not something that Sawyer County particularly has, but it's certainly resources that we can connect you to. The Natural Resources Program educator is located in Washburn County right now, and she is at 80% or so. So she is doing some aquatic invasive species programming, working with lakes and river associations, that kind of thing. So she is available, again, not specifically for Sawyer County, but is a resource for us that can connect us back to the university if we need it. Next is the Positive Youth Development Institute. That institute is where you would find Sky. So all of those people that are listed there, those other 5 people are the institute director and program managers. So not only do you get Sky, but you get all of the resources that are connected to Positive Youth Development. And that includes community youth development too for Sky. So part of her job is 4-H, and the other part is youth development. So sometimes what we found is some of the things that you lost when you don't have a family living educator, she's picking up and doing, such as financial coaching, rent smart programming, that kind of thing, tenant education, especially when it involves youth development. So you can see Sky's picture there. And I think that sums up kind of the overview of the institutes and what you get. And the last slide is a little bit of the budget for you. I also have another sheet that I'll leave for you that I've done for you in the past that just shows kind of the different grants that have come in, over $226,000, almost $227,000 that have come in over the past few years. As well as volunteers and how much money they're valued, and FoodWise, and all of that is on this sheet for you for your budget. And in general, you are, for 3.5 full-time educators, you're paying around $74,000 for that, which boils down to 21,000 or so a person. So I'll leave this for you too, so that you have it going into budget, but just wanted to give you an overview today. I don't think it made it to your packet because I was waiting on some numbers, but I do have it printed out for you, and we'll have it for you. Okay, questions?
Any questions for Lori?
I have a question on the food wise. I guess I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with it. So
Sure.
you said that it provides education and nutrition and stuff, but only for a certain group, based on age and income.
Yep.
Yet you said you did it at schools.
Yep.
So do you provide just education on nutrition, or do you provide actual food?
Education. They sometimes get a taste of something, so maybe they, like jicama isn't something that people normally would buy. So it might be a taste that they give at the schools, or a peach or something else. But so they might get a taste. It's not providing food for families. It's the
So
education behind it.
Okay.
Yep.
So at the school, you still are segregating people by income?
Sawyer County schools, I think all of the schools qualify for the education here in Sawyer County. Some schools throughout the state don't, and so they don't have a nutrition educator in their schools. So we don't go like, oh, you and you get this education today, but you guys don't. It goes by the school district.
Okay.
Who qualifies that way.
Okay, so, all right, so it's not based on the income of that student's
Right.
family. It's based on the income of the county as a whole,
Right.
the students in that school. Okay,
Right, and
thank
that
you.
school district, same. Yep, good question. Thank you. I know I ran through food-wise in particular. Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you for your report.
You're welcome.
Moving on now to Hayward Area Visitors and Convention Bureau.
Good morning,
You have-
Sherry Beckman. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So I did a quick little survey. We didn't get a great response, but it gave us some insight onto what's happening with tourism. And Carol has the survey up there for you. The first question we asked was, how are your summer reservations? And 62% said that it was up or the same as last year. So that's good news. I don't know if anyone traveled around this weekend, but there was definitely tourists here. What states are they coming from? Minnesota. Well, Wisconsin is the highest, and then Minnesota was second. Well, it was tied with Illinois. Have you changed your check-in and check-out times? The majority of them are still doing the same thing. Then they did give us a little bit of what they're doing differently. Is your changeover date different? No, they're pretty much staying the same with that. We just thought maybe with all the cleaning that maybe they would, they'd maybe have them come in Friday or something, or leave Friday so they could get everything. But it seems like they're having enough time to clean on Saturday mornings for the turnover. Is your bar open this summer? The ones who do have bars said yes. About 4% or 16% did not reopen their bars. And many of them changed the hours. They shortened the hours. And restaurant as well. There's still a few, 58% do not offer any food, but the ones that did, 58% don't offer food. So only 33% of the people who answered it do offer food. And then we asked them if they changed their menu, and it looked like most of them are keeping their menu the same. And have you received any assistance? So that was kind of good news. 45% had received some kind of assistance from the state or the federal government. And what is the last one here? Oh, and then how have you changed your cleaning procedures? And there was a wide change in that. It sounds like a lot of people are either offering for the guests to bring their own pillows and sheets, or they're not offering blankets because the washing the blankets every Saturday is a lot of money and a lot of time. So most of the resorts are just offering the bed, basically, you know, with a nice covered bed. So I don't know if you guys had any questions on that, but so we feel like we're having a, you know, pretty normal summer for lodging anyway. Then some of the analytics that I looked at for the month of June compared to last year, 39% of our page views are up 39%. And the top things they're looking at are ATVing and canoeing and kayaking. Facebook is up 32% with engagement, so we still know people are checking out what we're doing on Facebook. And then last week was kind of awesome because we were on the front cover of the Milwaukee Journal that came out July 3rd. So that was pretty exciting for us. Anything else I can tell you? Let's see. We had 250 more vacation guide requests this June than we did a year ago. We did have less visitors into the visitor center. We had about 432 less people that came in the month of June, but we think it's probably because of Muskie Fest being canceled. We had 78 more calls, and on Google, we had over 3,000 more people Googling us in the month of June than a year ago. So it's really interesting to see what people are doing, but they're definitely interested in us. And I had to work Friday and Saturday because I had an employee who got hurt. So it was really interesting. The people that came in on Saturday, I asked them, you know, well, how did you find out about us? And they said, well, we've always known about Hayward, but we've never come here. So it was pretty neat to see all these new people that were venturing out to our great outdoors. They were here, most of them, to either go on the river or go ATVing. That stopped in the information center. Any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Beckman?
I did have one more question for you guys because, you know, I have to get the budget amount to Mike at the end of this month. And I am wondering from this committee do you guys recommend? You know, James, like at the meeting we had at Round Lake, you said you wouldn't support us in the new budget. So I'm just wondering, what do I do?
I think you need to continue on with the normal budget cycle. I don't know if it's appropriate to put us all on spots like that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I do have a position that I stated publicly at the Round Lake meeting, but
Yeah.
like any politician, I have a right to change my mind.
Okay. I'm sorry. That's just what my board was. They're like, well, do we go forward, or if we have if this committee isn't for us, then would it be silly to go to Mike and ask for money?
I would recommend that you follow your normal budget procedures. And,
okay.
As they say in the Marine Corps, it's better for continue on. Just
okay. All right. Sorry, I didn't. Yep. Okay.
Hey, Sherry, this is Tom. Just a couple questions, or not questions, but comments, especially since we do have new committee members on this committee as well. You know, we have different committees for different things within the county, and this committee is a little bit different in the sense that, you know, there's not departments that come to this committee. It's mostly people that we fund through requests like yours at the Visitors Bureau, the Sawyer County Fair, Northwest Regional Planning, the Economic Development Corporation. So these are things that we fund that provide services or things to the county. So it's a little bit different than in other committees that have departments that are providing services directly by county employees. So like Extension, they do provide you know, some things for the fair, for 4-H, the food program. So some of those things that we wouldn't benefit from had we not funded extension. And as Lori mentioned, there are counties that are looking at, not funding extension or not funding it to the extent that they have in the past. And we've looked at that as well and have reduced our services that extension provides to Sawyer County as well. But so the job of this committee and what you need to look out for are the things that these organizations provide to the county and weigh those against, the other services that the county provides. As we talk about budgets and the tight budgets and whatnot, I think the organizations that we fund feel a little bit more vulnerable because it does take a cash contribution to those organizations to keep them funded. And so part of the budget process that we do each year is to look at the level of those funding of those organizations and fund those at a level that the board is comfortable with. So over the next couple of months, you'll get more information about these budget requests from these organizations. And then as you get together as a board, you talk about, the priorities and how that fits into the whole budget.
Okay. Okay, so that's our question, because we've kind of been advised maybe even ask for less just because of last year, because it was sent in half, of what we had requested. So we're just trying to be positive. So we just want to do the right thing.
Ms. Beckman, I would recommend to you that you follow your normal budget procedures and trust the board to make an informed decision based on information that they have in front of them. So whatever your previous conduct is, we don't have a completely different board, but we have a different committee. And give them the benefit of the doubt rather than prejudging before they have a chance to hear everything. Let them help you make a decision. Okay. For the committee members that are new, last year we passed a $30 million budget, and the only thing we fought about was $25,000 of whether or not this group would get it or not. So it's a contentious issue. I sympathize with Ms. Beckman because she has to walk into the fire pretty much every year, and this year is going to be no different. Probably even a little bit more warmer than previous years. So anything else, Ms. Beckman?
Nope, that answers my question. Thank you.
Any questions from the committee for Ms. Beckman? Mr. Morgan, do you have anything you wish to add?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm no longer on that board, but I do know that from what I've spoken to so many businesses really around the county, and the work that they continue to do is probably more important during our situation right now than it's ever been. So that would be what I would say.
Any other comments from anybody else present on the meeting? Ms. Beckman, thank you for your presentation. Moving on now to number 9, Northwest Regional Planning Commission report. So we have a couple of items that were submitted. Do we have anybody present that's going to speak to this issue?
Good morning, everyone. This is Ken Pearson from Northwest Regional Planning Commission. Thank you for allowing us to join by Zoom this morning. We appreciate that. I'm assuming you all can hear me fairly well.
Correct.
Very good. Here's my written report. We can kind of skip over that. I'll go through it here, but I'd be more interested in showing the graphics on, I think, the 3rd page of the documentation. This we'll cover first. I'll start with our housing report from the housing work that we do for you all. The Sawyer County CDBG housing program has an available balance of about $6,000, which is a good thing. It means that the money's out in the community helping rehab the homes that are in greatest need. We have 2 projects so far totaling $34,000 that have been obligated, and 2 other projects are under consideration. And over the last year, 4 of the housing loans have paid back about $49,000. So the money is out there revolving and improving the households and dwellings that people live in and need the money for. We have a 10-county regional housing program. That's the form that's in front of you on the screen now. And Sawyer County has $208,000 obligated for housing rehab projects under the current award. And we did apply for new rehab funding and has that's been provided to the regional housing program for $1.7 million to be distributed between July 1st and December 31st, or July 1st, 2020 through December 31st of 2021. If you have any questions, obviously Sheldon is always available if you're looking at some more specific follow-up with that, but it looks like quite a bit of money has been allocated to Sawyer County. 3 applications were sent out, 1 has been accepted, and I don't know what that last column is. Oh, what the 0 is, give me one moment. Oh, those are the regional, so we haven't secured any mortgages yet, but we will once that one process, obviously that one application that's going through the processing, if it's approved, then we'll be securing the mortgage with that as well. And those are just Q1 numbers. So clearly we're already into Q3. So the Q2 numbers are being secured at the moment. Other things that have been happening at Northwest Regional Planning, our household hazardous waste program. This is just a pamphlet of what we offer. This next sheet here just shows the rehab projects that we can do, the eligibility requirements for Sawyer County, depending on households and household income. We also have a home buyer assistance program that can help people with down payments and closing costs. And then the next page talks about our household hazardous waste. These are the annual events that we hold throughout our 10-county region. Sawyer County's HHW Clean Sweep is scheduled for Wednesday, September 30th from 2 p.m. to 7. We've given it an extra hour just to allow with social distancing and making sure that everyone has the appropriate spacing. But also we wanted to make sure that we gave people extra time because we're assuming that a lot of people working from home have extra time to clean out their homes and garages. So we're expecting a higher volume this year than in past years. Other programs that we've been doing, Crystal Rohde with Visions Northwest, which is part of our business development division. Crystal's been a huge leader in the COVID-19 education and recovery process. She updates her website frequently, nwrpc.com/COVID. And she also, in the months of March through May, held a weekly webinar for regional updates to see the impact of COVID-19 on the region, as well as offering resources to connect leaders, economic development leaders, chamber leaders, as well as business owners on what they can do to continue moving the economy forward even through this downturn. As far as, excuse me, as far as what regional planning is doing in terms of emergency funding or COVID-19 recovery funding, we applied for and have received a non-competitive award through the EDA on behalf of the CARES Act loan fund. So we applied for and received up to $1 million in funding to capitalize a revolving loan fund that will help businesses within our 10-county area continue to expand, grow, and or start up during this time. And again, that money was made possible through the CARES Act that was passed back in April. And with that, we also received some technical assistance funding that will help with the administration of making sure those revolving loan funds are able to reach the 10-county area. I was working with Jim Miller, Representative Johnson's Hayward, Northern Wisconsin representative, and he actually is also on the Hayward City Council, and we were able to create a facade program to assist downtown Main Street businesses gain access to a small pot of revolving loan money that we have, low interest rate facade loans to help give their businesses a little bit of a facelift. That loan is qualified businesses can lend up or receive up to $30,000 in loan funding, depending on their cash flow, collateral value of the building, if they have enough money to pay the loan back, and at 2% interest rate for the life of the loan of 10 years. So it's a pretty good program that can have a great impact on Main Street, downtown, historical areas throughout the different cities that qualify. And by Jim putting together that facade program manual and getting it approved through the city council, Hayward is now eligible for that funding, or the businesses along the main street of Hayward are eligible for that funding. And finally, through the CARES Act as well, we have a microloan program through the SBA, and the federal government is actually paying the full principal and interest on behalf of our loan clients for 6 months. It started in March and it'll end in September, and it also includes new loans that we take on. The federal government will pay full principal and interest payments for 6 months for them as well. So that was one way to help the small businesses, because we know in times like these, whenever there's an economic recession or downturn, small businesses often get lost in the shuffle. And that really happened a lot during the housing crisis and the economic collapse from 2007 to 2012. So to kind of make up for it, the federal government has had more of an emphasis on small businesses. And this is one way that a small business, existing small businesses, are being helped if they have an SBA microloan, or if they had a 7A loan through a banking entity, that their full principal and interest is being paid for 6 months. So that's a pretty fantastic opportunity that the SBA is doling out on behalf of a lot of small businesses in our region, in Sawyer County, as well as across the nation. From January to June of 2020, we've received 6 inquiries from small businesses, either startups or existing businesses from Sawyer County. Overall, we've received 50 total inquiries. So we're right around the normal. Usually we receive around 12 to 15 inquiries from Sawyer County a year. So even though there's a nationwide economic downturn, we really haven't seen too much of a slowdown in terms of lending activity. As to what 2019 presented us, lending has been getting slower across for my programs, but I think that a lot of it has to do with banks were lending more in 2018 and 19, so our programs weren't needed as much, or we were needed for smaller amounts. But so we're holding steady. We're holding right where we probably would be anyway this time of year. And we anticipate once all the dust settles from the EIDL loans and the PPP loans, that requests for us will start to pick up again in the fall. We have awarded 2 loans to Sawyer County clients in the first quarter, or the first half of 2020. So lending as usual at regional planning.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Pearson? Mr. Pearson, that's probably one of the more detailed reports that I don't think we've ever received. So thank you very much for your attention.
Yeah, you're welcome. And certainly we can do more as time moves on here.
Thank you. Hearing no more questions or comments, moving on to number 10, Economic Development Corporation. Mr. Morgan, you have the floor.
Yes, certainly. We, at our Thursday meeting, we did approve the hiring. We've identified a part-time executive director. I'm not able to make that public yet. We're going to be putting out a press release. We're kind of in a transition mode right now because, as you may know, there was about $130 billion left in the PPP program. Congress may be looking at another CARES Act. So we don't feel that we're at a place right now where we can totally shut down the economic development or economic recovery team. But we're also looking at other, especially grants and so forth, to look at while we wait. But this person, the new executive director, will be then reporting to this committee. We're very excited. We have some new officers. We did elect officers recently, so we will report that out. But it's still very fluid. We're not sure what other new programs might come out, and we simply don't want any business owners in Sawyer County to miss out on those programs or not have that information. So in coordination with the Hayward Chamber and the Hayward Lakes Visitors and Convention Bureau, we want to really make sure that those avenues of information and support are still there. So we're in a transition mode, and part of it, again, is funding. We right now approve the position as a part-time executive director, based on what the end result of the county budget process will be.
Any questions for Mr. Morgan?
Who are the members of your board and where are they from?
Oh, they're from all over, Mr. Duffy. We've got Jump River, Novato. I mean, there's a website. There's resort owners. There's bankers. There's tax preparers. Currently, and then of course, there myself and Mr. Paulson are representatives from the county board. But there are 19 board members, and they are from a wide variety of businesses and industries. We're really, the new executive director, one of their mandates is to look at grants, not only for the sustainability of the Economic Development Corporation, but if they find something that works for the county, if they find something that works for the Senior Resource Center or for anywhere else, they're going to forward those on. So I think it's pretty great news. But yeah, there's a wide variety of members on that board from different entities, Mr. Duffy.
Can we produce a roster?
I could, if you want me to, I can read them off. I can jump on.
Don't read them off, but just in the future, can we just get a roster? You don't need
certainly. And you know what? We're going to be presenting our annual report, I believe, at our August Economic Development Committee, and that'll have all the board members listed.
Excellent. Any other questions,
Perfect.
Mr. Morgan? Hearing no more questions or comments, thank you, Mr. Morgan. Moving on to number 11, future agenda items. Is there any items that the board would like to have considered? Hearing none, moving on to other matters for discussion only. I have one issue, and Mr. Hoff, if you can confer with the county board chair so that we can get a standard policy for masking for meetings and get that posted. Will do. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.